Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Way. We're back again with our morning agenda show. It's been a few hours after Arsenal defeated Orlando City 3-1 in Florida. I'm joined by two fantastic guests. Chris Davison, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Umar. Hope you're both doing well. Good morning to everyone tuning in, and yeah, looking forward to talk about the game last night and obviously a certain someone coming from Man City.
Love that. Alfie, how you doing, man?
Yeah, morning guys, doing well. Hope everyone tuning in is doing well, and yeah, just looking forward to getting into it.
Chris, like you said, the first thing that we probably need to touch on is the main man himself, Alexander Zinchenko. Obviously, Arsenal defeated Orlando City 3-1 this morning in our time, but everyone will be loving what they saw in the morning or last night with the Zinchenko being pictured at the ground with Edu. The Arsenal private investigators were out in force again, picturing him with his training kit, walking in and around Orlando. But I just want to get your initial thoughts on the deal. Just how big of a plus is this for Arsenal?
Yeah, big plus, big signing for them. Obviously, as we've been saying quite often on the show, a great player who's proven in the Premier League, will bring a lot of experience, versatility. A great guy on and off the pitch as well. So certainly fits into the culture and the environment that Mikel Arteta's been building over the last couple of years. And I'm sure, with that relationship and connection to Arteta and obviously to Gabriel Jesus as well, I'm sure he'll fit in like a glove and settle really quickly because he's got all of the tools and connections around him to fit in really well, to hit the ground running and be a really important player for Arsenal. And it's not just his quality that makes this a really exciting signing, but obviously, of course, we were in need of a player like Zinchenko, who had obviously been chasing Lisandro Martinez at Ajax before he eventually went to Manchester United because the demands that Ajax were setting financially were just sort of out of the question in the end, for Arsenal, because we weren't obviously looking to spend that much on this particular position. But still, it remained absolutely vital that we brought in extra depth and support for the likes of Kieran Tierney, who we know has obviously struggled with injury. Nuno Tavares, his future is uncertain, so of course he could leave on loan as yet. And an added bonus with Zinchenko is that he is great going forward, and of course he grew up as a number 10. That was his natural position as he established himself in football. We obviously seen him play there for Ukraine as well, both as a number 10 and then in that sort of number 6 role in central midfield as well. So, again, the support, the versatility that he will bring and will offer will be absolutely crucial. Yeah, it's very much welcome. Looking forward to seeing what he can do in an Arsenal shirt, because from what I've seen from him over the last few years at Manchester City, he's grown and grown and grown. He's become a better player. He would have learned so much under Pep Guardiola as well. And everyone that knows him well, it is very happy for him, obviously, to see him make this move, because he will get lots of opportunities at Arsenal and he will be viewed as a very important player. But certainly the Manchester City fans and the players, they speak so highly of him, and they're really sad to see him go. So that can only be good news for Arsenal.
Alfie, I'm going to come to you. The summer transfer window has been busy. A lot of teams have spent a lot of money. You look at Manchester City, they spent money with Erling Haaland. Chelsea have bought Raheem Sterling. Arsenal have spent a lot of money. But do you think this signing of Alexander Zinchenko could be potentially one of the bargains of the summer? Because a lot of people in the media have saying it's a sign that has gone a bit under the radar. But when the season starts, personally, I think he could be a steal for £30 million. I think it's a bargain. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think for the price tag, if we compare it to the Lisandro Martinez deal, roughly half the price with sort of £30 million. For me, like you say, probably not £30 million. We're calling it a bargain now. 10 years ago it was a lot of money, but in today's market, yeah, it is a bargain for a player that, as Chris said, can play so many positions. And You look at sort of the Manchester City fans, what they say about him. You see on Twitter all these people saying, he hasn't made these appearances, starts sort of 10, 15 games a season, but they've got one of the best sort of left backs in the world in João Cancelo, so it's going to always be a struggle for him. I don't think that's sort of anything to say that Zinchenko isn't a top quality player. We're looking at a player that I think he started the Champions League final against Chelsea, and the game against Aston Villa when they needed someone to come on and be a game changer, he was that player. So I'm just excited to see how he gets on, and more importantly where he fits in, because we talk about Kieran Tierney. I think he'll provide great cover, but just sort of watching last night's or this morning's game, looking at sort of the positions where Lokonga was picking up in that sort of left central midfield role. I think if we've got someone I think Kyle Walker put him in the top 3 for technical quality at Manchester City, which is probably the highest compliment you can give someone at one of not the league's best, but the world's best teams. And I'd love to just see him in those sort of positions and see what he can do, because with all the technical players we're adding now, we've got Odegaard, Vieira, probably put Saka in that bracket as well. Now Gabriel Jesus. I'm just excited to see him get in there and get involved, and like you say, probably a bargain, as you'd say, in today's market.
Chris, before we touch on the game, I just want to get a bit of your opinion on this. Zinchenko's done. Arsenal have all but confirmed his deal. We're just waiting for an official announcement from the club. And you already have Arsenal fans moving on to the next target, whether that's a winger or whether that's a central midfield. But Mikel Arteta in his post-match press conference has all but confirmed now the priority will be letting go of the players who are not say in his plans. So whether that's the likes of Lucas Torreira, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, do you think Arsenal's priority should be now focused on reducing the squad size, because it is a big squad, to be honest, right now?
Yeah, it is, and I agree with what Mikel Arteta said after the game, and it's not surprising. We've obviously for the last few weeks, we've been speaking about is new signings, and the additions of so Zinchenko will be a 5th, so it's been busy in terms of incomings, and obviously pre-season sort of reiterates the need to offload, because there are some names that have been involved that clearly their future lies away from Arsenal. You mentioned a few names there. There's talk of Lucas Torreira sort of flying back because he's now sorting out his future. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that. There's absolutely no doubt that Arsenal need maybe 1 or 2 more players. One in central midfield, and I'd say the other on the sort of the wing area out wide. However, we've got Nicola Pepe, future uncertain. We've got, like I say, Lucas Torreira in central midfield, future uncertain. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who plays in central midfield, what's going to happen with him? I think the club have now put themselves in a position, and it's no fault of their own, because they've had to sign players. And I'm really happy with the business they've done so far, but they've now put themselves in a position where they've added 5 players on top of what they already had, with all these players returning as well from loans and stuff like that, from injury. And all of a sudden, you've got a really sort of quite bloated squad. So now, yes, the priority must be to find new homes for some of those players in there. We don't know what's going to happen with Bernd Leno yet, because there's obviously we know he's been in talks with Fulham, but there's been sort of no sign of any progress. What's going to happen with Bellerin, Pablo Mari? So there's so many names in that team that probably won't be here in the next few weeks, but that there has been a lack of progress in terms of that happening, and it is slightly worrying, because it can hold the club's transfer business back. And I'm sure if Lucas Torreira had already gone, maybe Nicola Pepe had found a new team as well, maybe we'd already have that wing and central midfield position already sorted. But unfortunately, you can't do everything at once. Things take time. As much as it would be lovely to have all the positions filled and sorted going into the new season, it's just unrealistic, isn't it, in a summer transfer window, because there's so many, if buts, and we often refer to it as the domino effect. One thing leads to another. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm still hopeful that the club will find new clubs for these players. And yeah, Arteta said it has to be done, because they have they've got a bloated squad now. They have to do something. I suppose the main bit of encouragement from Arteta's quotes was that process will start very soon. So maybe he's confident. Maybe he's got some sort of indication that things will go smoothly eventually on the outgoing front. And then hopefully, as you say, Umar, we can get a couple more players in just to complete, what would be a very, very decent summer.
No, I tend to agree. I just want to touch on this comment here from Graham Caldwell. He says, I would like to sign a central midfielder as soon as possible. I think we can wait until the season starts, until we bring in a winger or other attacking players. I tend to agree with this, to be honest, because there's been links to Yuri Tillemans. There's been links to, in recent days, to Arthur of Juventus. But I think if Arsenal are supposedly looking to reduce the price for Yuri Tillemans, whether that's 25 or 30 million, I think if it comes towards the end of the window and it comes to deadline day, Leicester will be more than likely not to sell him, because they'll rather think we could just wait and then keep him for a year, because the plans would be put in disruption. So I think if Arsenal really want Yuri Tillemans, I think they should just pay the money now, and then they think about reducing the squad size, whether that's selling the likes of Lucas Torreira, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and then when it comes towards the end of the window, look to go for a winger, look to go for a star winger, because I think buying a central midfielder right now is easy. But again, we have to sell Ainsley Maitland-Niles, we have to sell Lucas Herrera. We don't know what the situation with Sambi Lokonga alone may happen there. So I think the midfield size is quite big at the moment. But if Yuri Tillemans is our target, I say we pay the money. But I think that's down to Mikel Arteta and Edu right now to see what they want to do. But enough about transfers. I think, yeah, we need to speak about the game this morning, last night. Alfie, 3-1 victory to the Arsenal. Gabriel Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah, and Reiss Nelson on the score sheet. I just want to talk about the first half, because there was a lot of changes which we more than expected. But how did you think the first half was? Because the likes of Pepe, Maitland-Niles, Pablo Mari, it's quite an underwhelming performance. You saw the team step it up a bit in the second half when the likes of Partey, Jesus, they came on. It was a different Arsenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And as Chris mentioned earlier, we've struggled sort of these deals for the players we're wanting to offload. They're moving slow, and you watch the game this morning, and you can sort of realise why. Pablo Mari, if we didn't know already, he shouldn't really play in an Arsenal shirt again. I don't want to sort of slander him too much, but he just looks off the pace. Looks really slow. And to be honest, the partnership we're holding just didn't work, really, did it? Even against, with all due respect to Orlando City, a lesser side. And I think there was one just before the goal where Ramsdale made a good save, but the two centre backs shouldn't be getting split apart like that, especially against Orlando. You mentioned Maitland-Niles there. You wouldn't know that he's a player that's sort of looking to nail down, whether at Arsenal or elsewhere, a first team spot, because I do like Maitland-Niles, but sometimes he just looks not bothered, and I think sometimes you'd like to see a bit more sort of passion and energy from him. And I think the same with Pepe. I've defended Pepe for sort of the first couple of seasons. He had, not last season, the season before, I thought he had a decent season. I think he hit 20 goal contributions in all competitions. And then, so, last season struggled to really nail down a spot, even though he'd been given chances. And then last night again, he didn't look the part. And you mentioned the first half and all the changes. I don't think it's anything to be too worried about. Like you say, is a lot of those players, won't be there. Well, hopefully won't be there come the start of the season. But just disappointing, really, because the likes of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, we put a lot of faith in him after, keeping him when there was interest from Wolves. And now you look back and what was it, 15, 20 million they were offering? I mean, for me, I'd snap their hand off to get a figure around that fee now. I think we're looking at less than half. I'd be surprised if we got sort of 7-8 million for him, because he struggled at Roma. He looks like he's struggling this pre-season, and it's probably poor business in the end from Arsenal. But you mentioned it was a bit of a worry. You mentioned the changes. I'd say I'm not too worried, because when we did bring on the firepower in the second half, we looked a completely different side, and I think one of the main catalysts for that was Gabriel Jesus. I keep mentioning it, but just so excited to see him in an actual competitive game, and I think he'll have a really good season with us.
No, I agree. I thought Gabriel Jesus, when he came on, he was basically the catalyst. I thought he worked well alongside Eddie and Nketiah, and he caused the Orlando City backline a number of problems. And yeah, I agree. I think once the season starts, I just can't wait for him to fire a competitive goal for Arsenal. But Chris, I'm going to come to another player who has done well since preseason has started. William Saliba, again, Mikata in his post-match press conference was complimentary of the defender. He was asked about his contract situation. Nketiah, as always, doesn't give much away when it comes to contracts or transfers. He was quite coy on that. But how impressed have you been with William Saliba? He seems a lot more focused, determined, and he seems to be a player who just wants to prove a point.
Yeah, absolutely. Saliba, I mean, look, he looks like a player that has been out on loan for the last 2-3 seasons. I mean, physically much improved. And I'm sure as a person and as a player on and off the pitch, he's grown. He's become better, stronger. Obviously you got to remember he joined Arsenal. What was it? An 18, 19-year-old. Obviously a lot of pressure on his shoulders, along with all of the speculation surrounding his future, his long-term future at the club. Obviously, we went out on a few loans, and there's a lot of uncertainty over his name and whether or not he was going to make it at Arsenal. And I think he's had to deal with a lot of things personally, so it's not been easy. But I mean, as Mikel Arteta said the other day, it's a fresh start for everyone. This pre-season, whether it's players that have already been at the club last season or previous, or they're coming back from loans, injuries. It's a fresh start for everyone, and William Saliba is very much included in that. And I hope he sees it as a fresh start as well, because I'm sure in the back of his mind he has been left a little bit frustrated by how things played out since his arrival. But then I'm sure on the flip side, he understands it, because he's young. He's had to deal with a lot of things. I think he's even said in interviews that he appreciates the fact that, he can't just sort of all of a sudden come in as a youngster and play first team football at Arsenal straight away. Mikel Arteta was very keen to ease him in, take the right path. And it was questioned at the time. I think probably me, I was a little bit guilty of showing some disappointment at Saliba going out to Marseille on loan. But that's just because, you could already see that he had so much talent, so much potential, so much to offer. But, looking at the bigger picture now, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? But, you'd say that the loan last season was the right call, because he's come back and he just looks like a totally different player. Like I say, in terms of the quality, the mentality, just the strength, and like I say, you can just tell that the loan he was on, especially last. I think all of them have been relatively successful, but especially last season, won Young Player of the Year in France and put on some amazing performances. Won the man of the match several times, Player of the Month several times. So we have got absolutely no doubt about it, a top player on our hands who has the potential to become world class, and that's been said several times before by those who know him well and watch him often. So really encouraging start, obviously, to his pre-season. You just want him or the club to come out and say outright that he's staying. He's committed to the club. He'll play a regular part next season, because there is still that part that worries me, that a club could come in for him, offer a good sum, and all of a sudden the club are sort of turning their heads a little bit. But if obviously pre-season's anything to go by, he's happy to be back. He's focused. He's working hard, and obviously the performances are paying off as well as obviously what Arteta said, which is encouraging on its own. So hopefully he can keep up. And I mean, I think we were chatting the other day, weren't we, boys, that if he keeps performing well in pre-season, maybe gets a bit more consistency in game time than Ben White, then who knows? He could be starting alongside Gabriel against Palace.
No, yeah, we spoke about it yesterday. The way William Saliba's performing right now, and obviously Ben White has those little niggles. He's just playing into a bit of form, so the season's just a few weeks away. So William Saliba's, there could be a potential chance that he starts that game. But Alfie, before we touch onto a few questions, away from playing matters, Stan Kroenke was pictured at the game as well, alongside I think Josh Edu. I just want to just ask a question outright. The transfer windows in the past few seasons, money has been spent. Arsenal have spent money. They have bought signings. They have improved the squad. In your opinion, directly to you, has your perception changed on Stan?
Yeah, I think he's been involved with the club, I believe, since 2007. But I think he sort of took majority in 2018 after Wenger left, which maybe says something about, I don't know, the power that Arsene Wenger had in the club for a manager. And we mentioned the investment or lack of investment, prior to then. But the last 2 years, I don't think we can fault them. Even I know they come in at the last minute and they paid for the party deal, which obviously has turned out to be probably one of the best transfers, since they sort of took over majority in 2018. So, yeah, I think I like that Josh Kroenke is sort of taken more of an involvement than Stan, and we see him at a few more games now because, I don't think it makes too much of a difference, but you do like to see the chairman, actually showing an interest in the club and not just being there as the business side of things. And just to see him, I mean, he was holding the Orlando City shirt in the photo I saw, which whether he was meant to, whether he just picked up the wrong one, it was just good to see him at the games because, like you say, you look at Leicester and they've probably got the ideal chairman. Obviously, Vinay, after the sad occurrence with him, his son took over, and you look at him, the celebrations when they won the FA Cup, stuff like that. You'd love to see that at the club. It's sort of the ideal chairman. So to see them getting more involved, and even I remember just a video of him dancing. I think it was at the Adele night of Josh Kroenke, and just to see like they are human. They're actually getting involved in stuff around London and probably caring a bit more. I think it just shows a lot more to the fans because we like to see them get involved and yeah. So my perception has changed of them over sort of the last couple of years, and if we're going to be starting to fully invest in the squad and not just invest in the spending the money smartly. It's not like we're overpaying for players. We're doing as we mentioned earlier, pretty bargains in today's market. So yeah, I'm happy with the business, especially over the last couple of seasons, and long may that continue.
Got a question here, Chris, on screen from Lithit. Why doesn't Arsenal sign N'Golo Kante from Chelsea?
I mean, obviously, yeah, there has been that link there in the media, but I think it's just not one that Arsenal are that genuinely interested in because all of the speculation and concrete speculation has been surrounding obviously Yuri Tielemans, as we've spoken about. Lucas Paqueta of Lyon, of course, another name that is appreciated, especially by Edu. And yeah, I mean, Kante, I don't think he's involved with Chelsea at the minute. Is he pre-season in America?
Yeah, I think he's had that vaccination issue, so he's not been able to travel.
So, I mean, obviously he's not really getting a great pre-season or, at least an ideal preparation for it. And I just think, in terms of, you look at the Arsenal transfer strategy and the change of approach over the last couple of windows, we're not sort of targeting players in that age bracket. And I would like to hope that Arsenal have learnt their lesson From I can see Alfie smirking now. I'm sure he's probably thinking of Willian. I'm sure everyone thinks of the Willian deal in particular. And of course, David Luiz as well. I mean, that was probably the better of the two, if you can say that. But really, as a whole, neither move really worked out, did it? Certainly not the most recent one. So I'm hopefully, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm hoping that Arsenal have got past that period now of going to Chelsea and getting their cast offs, really, because we can do better than that. And as the last two transfer windows, or sorry, the last two summer transfer windows have shown, we have done better than that. And the change in the strategy and approach in the transfer market has improved significantly. We're looking at younger players who possess a lot of potential. And as well as the quality that they bring on the pitch, it's about the quality that they bring off it as well. The personalities, the characters. There's an improved atmosphere and sense of togetherness within this group now. So, as much as I do like Kante as a player and a person, actually, he's down to earth, isn't he? And, he's always smiling. It reminds me of Santi, when he was at the club, always, whether it was in training on the pitch, he was always smiling, giving off good vibes. And Kante is similar to that, but I think now he's getting to that stage where his levels are dipping a little bit, and no disrespect to him, I think in terms of that position we can do a lot better, and bring in someone that can contribute to Arsenal's future as well, not just the next sort of year.
No, I tend to agree. There's a question here for Alfie from Graham. What are your opinions on Reiss Nelson? Of course, he scored last night. Do you think he could become a backup potentially to Bukayo Saka, or would you look to move him on to fund other transfers?
I think this is another one that we've spoke about quite often in the last couple of weeks. He's, I think I said previously before about. When a player comes through Hale End, you sort of have that attachment to them and you want them to do well. And with Reiss Nelson, he does feel, well, he has been around for years, because obviously he come into the first team at such a young age. And by now you'd probably have expected him to have made a mark. But, he went on loan to Feyenoord and struggled at first, but had a fantastic end to the season. He looks like he's come back refreshed, improved. And yeah, he has impressed me in pre-season. And the thing is, I think he's a good player, but you look at Bukayo Saka and he's one of the best in his position in the league. Whereas Reiss Nelson, I mean, would he be good enough to fill in that slot when Bukayo Saka isn't there? That's sort of where I think I've got to sort of take a step back and look at him and sort of forget that he come through the academy and think, is he good enough to take that step up? Because there's one thing playing in the Eredivisie and then, playing Premier League football. I think it's a struggle. So you can tell that he's obviously a talented player. And I guess with Europa League football, there's the opportunity for him to get football there. The League Cup, if we get a sort of a favourable run in as we did last year, again, more opportunities for him there. But I think we'll see how, if he plays against Chelsea, see how he fares against sort of a proper Premier League opposition, because I think we've got to start being a bit more ruthless if we actually want to compete at the top. And, with the links to, Rafinha in that position before, I know there's probably nothing in them, but, Gnabry, Sane, they're all players that, would take us to the next level and, would provide brilliant depth in that front three. Can I say the same about Reiss Nelson? Probably not. So I think it's probably one where, if we want to compete, we need to look at getting a suitable backup.
Speaking of ruthless, we have one more question. Matthew or Chris, if we get no fee for Nicolas Pepe, should we just keep him for the season, as there are plenty of games ahead and the 5 subs rule? Not many people have spoken about this 5 subs rule, and Mikel Arteta spoke about in his post-match press conference that it's going to be a big factor for the forthcoming season, and you will need a good squad, you will need good depth of players. So say if we can't get a good fee for Pepe, saying that we just spent 72 million pounds on him, and if teams want to buy him, say on loan, do you think we'd rather just keep him for the upcoming season?
Personally, even if it was a loan deal, I know you mentioned the 72 million pound price tag there, Umar. You compare it to that, and a few years down the line, we're talking about a loan deal for him. I appreciate it's nowhere near ideal, but I think we have to do that if that opportunity arises, because we're talking about someone who could become, I'm not saying he is, but could become a little bit disgruntled at the lack of game time. He's already unhappy with it as it is, hence why he's, looking to move on. And when he does play, I mean, Alfie touched on it earlier, he's had the opportunities, but he's still not delivering. And I just think, it's got to the point now, like, how many opportunities do you need in order to prove a point, send a message to the manager, remind the fans of the class and the talent you have? He just hasn't produced many of those moments, and he can go missing. He can be inconsistent. 1 minute he's running rings around defenders and pulling off a cracking shot from the right, cutting in on his left foot, bending it into the top corner. And then the next he's just so quiet. He can't beat his man. He can be sloppy, heavy touches. It's frustrating, and I think I'm sure I'm not the only one when I sit here and say I just don't know if I can take much more of it, if I'm being completely honest with you, because the lack of consistency in his game could cause us serious issues for us next season. When we need a player to come on, provide a big moment, or we need him to start a match and do the job of what Saka would do, or Martinelli, I just can't see him producing those moments. And for me, that's a big concern. So I don't care if it's 25, 30 million pounds or even a loan for the season. I think he needs to move elsewhere, find his confidence once again, get regular game time, and just go out and find a club that, plays to his strengths. Because for some reason, I'm not sure what it is. I'm sure maybe the lack of regular game time, the consistency has played its part. You've got Bukayo Saka, who's just levels above. Emile Smith-Rowe's obviously performed well when he's played out on the left. The same as Martinelli, he just offers so much more consistency and energy. Of course, that has held his sort of his consistency back and the game time back. But even when he has been given the chances, which he has done, he just hasn't lived up to the expectations. So, look, I'm sorry. I know it's not ideal, and the club, I'm sure, will be sitting there thinking, "Look, blimey, how has it got to this?" But I think we need someone new to come in on that right-hand side, in particular, Umar. Someone fresh, someone who will provide more consistency, and something a little bit different. Someone we can rely on when Bukayo Saka isn't in the team, or needs a rest. And yeah, I think no matter what sort of form it's in, what capacity it is, Pepe needs new scenery around him, I think.
No, I think I tend to agree. He seems like a really likable player in the dressing room, and unfortunately, it's not worked out the way we had hoped. But this happens in football, so I think it will be best to just cut our losses.
Is it?
Because yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's a shame, because
Yeah,
there's a player in there. There's a
of
top
course.
player in there, and we've seen it in patches. Like I said, that's one of the frustrations about it, because he can be hot 1 minute, cold the next. And when he first arrived, it was looking bright. He was taking on his man, beating them with confidence, just proving a real handful for the opposition. We know he likes to cut in on his left foot, and he can unleash a really good shot. I remember when I think it was in the Europa League a couple seasons back, he scored 2 consecutive free kicks in the same game.
Yeah.
He's got that great technical ability about him, but the lack of game time, it's just seen his confidence just drop like that, just plummet down. So I think it's got to the point now where a move is best for all parties involved, and yeah, hopefully that can be resolved in the coming days and weeks, and that will then allow us, like I say, to bring in someone fresh, someone a little bit different to help us going forward.
No, I tend to agree. But that's the end of the show. I'd just like to thank my guests. Alfie, thank you for jumping on, mate.
No, thank you both for having me on, and thank you everyone for tuning in and for all the questions and comments. So yeah, thank you.
Chris, likewise, thank you for jumping on, mate.
Cheers, Umar. Thanks, Alfie, too, of course, and appreciate everyone getting involved and watching this morning, and hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah, like Chris said, thank you for everyone jumping in, commenting, liking. Yeah, we've got the Mikel Arteta press conference on the channel, so if you want to go and watch that, we'll have other content along the week. So yeah, just keep liking, following, and keep wanting us down the Arsenal way.
49, 49, undefeated. Playing for glory, Arsenal.